At 19, Erik was told he'd never walk again, but nobody said anything about skateboarding. Meet Erik Kondo, a paraplegic inventor revolutionizing wheelchair mobility. From wheelchair skateboarding to affordable DIY innovations, Erik's creativity knows no bounds. In the following clip, he shares profound advice for those newly injured with spinal cord injuries.
Now you have to figure out what your identity is, what your sense of purpose is, and get back to your community. And if your sense of purpose is nothing other than trying to walk again, you're screwed.
Don't miss this inspiring glimpse into Erik's fascinating mind. Stay tuned for the full-length episode and more exciting clips from our extended conversation. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. What advice would you give to a newly injured person who's struggling with their new identity in a wheelchair?
So I think it's a great question, and I actually got this kind of thing written down. So to me, a spinal cord injury knocks out 5 things, and this is and if more therapists recognize this, I think that they could help people a lot better. Bodily function, community, independence, sense of purpose, and identity. Those 5 things get knocked out, right? So literally you're that person, you have that spinal cord injury, and they're all dramatically affected. So bodily functions, you've got to get that stuff under control, particularly urination, bowel, and bladder, right? Mm-hmm. However you get it under control, and you need to get that under control because that leads to independence. And independence, if you're a high-level quad and you have somebody who's a caretaker, assistant, that's still independence because you worked it out. Mm-hmm. So independence is relative. It doesn't mean you're just doing stuff on your own. It just means you are directing what is happening. Community, you've got to get back to your community. You can't be isolated. This is what we're talking about. When you're isolated, nobody survives. I know you might be the toughest able-bodied person in the world, but for the most part, we drop you off by yourself somewhere in the jungle, and you're going to be dead. Yeah. Because human beings need other people. So that's how we survive with our community. You've got to get back to your community, and that's super important. And this is where a lot of people, particularly like athletes, they lose their community. Let's say they're a mountain biker, and that was their community was all around mountain biking, and they lost, and now they're like, I can't mountain bike. I've lost my community. They've lost their sense of purpose, and they lost their identity. My identity was a badass mountain biker, and now I'm not doing that. I live to mountain bike. So now what do we knock out? We knocked out, you see how all 5 of them get all knocked out? And then they're like, okay, how am I going to get this back? I know. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to do rehab. I'm going to go to like all this stuff like Project Walk. I'm going to do this, that. No one's going to stop me. I got to get back, And so there they are on their leg braces, moving their toe or whatever it is. But they haven't got back their sense of purpose. They haven't got back their identity, their community, they don't have that. All of that is missing. They're not happy. They're depressed. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is you've got to address you newly injured person. You have to recognize all 5 of that got hit by a machete. It got really knocked out. You've got to get it back. And so you have to develop, and it's not going to look the same, but you've got to, you have to figure out what your identity is, what your sense of purpose is, and get back to your community. And if your sense of purpose is nothing other than trying to walk again, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because that is not something, that is fulfilling for you. And it's just because it's, it's like, yes, we all heard the story about the 1% of people who recover, right? The thing is, that person who recovered probably would have recovered a lot of function even if they didn't do anything because their spinal cord injury wasn't so bad. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, yeah, they did rehab and they probably helped it along a little bit, but a lot of that would have happened anyway. Mm-hmm. If you're an amputee and you lose your leg, I don't care how much you think about it, it's not growing back, right? You know what I mean? It ain't growing back. So accept it. and then, get really good with it. Get really good with that prosthetic leg and be a badass with that prosthetic leg. If you're going to use a wheelchair for as your mobility for the rest of whatever it is, then get really good at it.
Yeah.
Why should you, if your wheelchair is your means of mobility, why do you settle for second-rate mobility when you could have it better? And why?
Everything you just said resonated with me so hard. Everything that you said, I felt like I lost my sense of identity, my community, obviously the bodily functions, the mobility.
Right.
And I do still struggle to this day with a sense of purpose, to be honest. And yeah, it was hard, man, because I thought I had my life figured out, and I was just, I guess it was just so easy, so effortless. And then you can't walk. You got to use a wheelchair. And then like you say, the mountain bike community, the snowboard community, you can't hang out with them guys anymore because, well, I mean, in many ways there are adaptive ways that you can get back into it if you want, but it rips you down, like strips you bare, and it's so hard. But yeah, I've never had it explained like that before, but it was very helpful, I think. Like you say, yeah, there are so many things that get destroyed. I think so many people focus on, and that was me for so long. I was determined to walk again. I didn't want to be in a wheelchair. I wanted to use leg braces. I had a certain amount of functional spasticity, so I could do what looked a lot like walking in the parallel bars, but I was basically like, it may as well have been leg braces. I was just like using my hips to put one spazzy leg in front of the other. And again, when I put videos on social media, people were like, "Oh my God, he's gonna walk again! That's amazing!" And I was like, "Yeah," but I knew really that it was a parlor trick, And in the end, the social media was actually unhelpful because I felt like I was letting everyone down if I didn't walk again, even though it was like a 1% chance. Man, everything you said was just spot on. It was very hard for me, and that was hopefully that is helpful for someone listening.
No, I think that's really important what you're saying is because so many people go down that path. And I think going down that path is a little bit is part of the healing process. It's a question of whether you go too deep down that path. Because if you're again, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this, but a lot of people here, if they get injured and they, people raise money for them, $100,000. If they spend it all on rehab, it's gone. Where they could have had you got a hand cycle. You said you hand cycle, right? You could have had a hand cycle. You could have a monoski, so you can go back to skiing, right? You can get an off-road mountain bike with electric assist, so you get back and doing all that stuff. All that stuff is really expensive and costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you spent it all on going to Panama to get stem cell surgery, right? And all this other stuff, then you don't have it to do these things. And so that's one aspect. The other aspect is the loss of time, and you're trying to get back to something that is, to me, there's the before times and there's the after times, right? We learned that with the pandemic. There was the before and there's the after. You can't get back to the before times. You just can't. And I think that people think that rehabilitation will fill that hole that's being, remember that hole? Those 5 things create that hole, particularly sense of identity, community, sense of purpose. And okay, if I can get back to walking, then everything will fit again. But the thing is, unless you're 100%, which is, we know isn't going to happen, you're still going to be that fucked up dude with a spinal cord injury who can barely walk.
Yeah, right.
Right? You still don't have your sense of purpose and your sense of identity in your community because you can't really do anything anyway. So if you want to go let's say that you're married, you want to go for a walk with your wife with the dog, she's she going to say, yeah, go break out your walker and crutches and we'll go for a walk. No, she's going to get in your ass in your wheelchair. This is bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're functional in your chair. And so, but why, but society tells us a wheelchair is so much worse.
When it's not.
You're giving
it gives you so much freedom.
Up. Right. You're giving up. And when you're vertical, you're not giving up. And so what happens is with people is when they're so focused on walking is they don't want to get good in their chair, maybe subconsciously or maybe consciously, because they think that's giving up. And they're like, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to keep trying to walk.
Yeah.
Instead of taking all of that energy and determination and putting it into setting up, maximizing their mobility. So to me, I want to maximize my mobility. I don't care how I get it.
Yeah.
Right? So if using power, 100% power, gives me the mobility in that place that I want to be, then I'm going to use 100% power. If using power assist provides the mobility that I want at that point in time, I'll use power assist.
Yeah.
If I'm doing an event that I don't want to use power, like this thing I was talking about, like the 6 marathons with power assist, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That doesn't get you what I want. I want to do something that's physically hard. So I'll do that course without power because that gets me what I want.
Yeah.
So we use whatever we can use to get where we want to be. When you're walking, and then again, the word walking is you're not really getting where you're wanting to be. You're trying to fill a hole.
Yeah.
You're trying to pretend you're not really this person with a spinal cord injury, but you are.
Yeah. Especially if there's been fundraising, and if there's fundraising for rehab and you don't walk again, that comes with a side order of guilt. You're like, oh, well, I've let everyone down. They paid for the stem cells, I've been, and they're like, are you still not walking yet? Probably they're a bit more compassionate than that, but you do feel like, shit, if I don't walk again, I've let everyone down. They've fundraised for me. They've fundraised rehab. When, again, like you say, that could have gone to mobility equipment that was a better use for a life in a wheelchair. But I guess some people are stuck in denial, and I know people to this day that have been injured for many years, and they're stuck pining for their old life, and it's hard. But sometimes you've got to just move on.
Well, exactly, and I think that is. There are a lot of people like that, and again, hopefully those people seeing more people doing stuff and recognizing, look, that there is more to life than being upright.
Yeah.
And just being upright doesn't mean your life is that great, because what do we know? I tell this people all the time. There's a lot of able-bodied people killing themselves, committing suicide, right? That's just a fact. There's a lot of unhappy able-bodied people. So just being able-bodied doesn't mean that you're going to be happy, and so that I think is just recognize that, and so if you understand that, I think that will help a lot of people, and also really do some soul searching to understand, what do you want to do with your life? Because you only get one. And the time that you spend not being happy is gone. You're never getting it back.
Yeah.
You spend 10 years of that, that's 10 years down the tubes, and that might be in your awesome 10 years of your life.
Yeah.
And, so the sooner you recognize, let's just get going, the better off you're going to be. And if you think you're this badass person, right, who's super determined, then fine. Put it towards being really good at something, your mobility. And then maybe when you're super awesome in your chair, and then you want to spend all your time, then you want to spend more time, trying to use your braces, go for it. Whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both,
Absolutely. I've focused a lot on upper body strength since my accident. But before my accident, I was sort of snowboarding and biking. But since my accident, I've been eating a lot healthier. Number one, I've been going to the gym 3 times a week. I've been lifting weights. I go swimming. I try getting out my hand cycle. And I said to my girlfriend recently, I said, these are the good old days. I'm going to look back. you know how I look back at stuff like before my injury and be like, oh, you know, those were the good old days. Those were the good old days. And they were. I've had a wonderful life, and I'm very grateful and I'm very lucky. But when I look back on this period of my life, I'm definitely going to be like, these were the good old days, man, because I am like quite a happy fella. And I've got a great girlfriend, and you know, we have a great time. And I think a lot of, again, I think it's very easy for me to romanticize it because I've got there. But like when I was first injured, I could not even fathom that my life would be this good. You know, I thought it was over. But there's definitely a beautiful life to be had, you know, whether you walk again or you're not, you know, like.
Exactly. And I think that message is so important, and that I'm glad that you're putting it out there. And I'm sure you're doing this with all your other guests and so forth. It's because it's important, because what really is, people have given up and they think, okay, there is nothing, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Like being in a chair is always going to suck. I can't do anything good. Therefore, I just might as well be miserable, right? And our point is, no, it doesn't have to be that way. There's actually a lot of stuff that you can do. You can be happy. You can live a purposeful, you know, fulfilling life. And don't give up. And that's the message. But it's society that has told people that using a wheelchair and having a disability is less than. And that's the problem. That's the message. And it's that overwhelming message that creates people with that attitude that you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
And we're hoping we can help change that attitude.
That's wonderful. And for someone who's been in a wheelchair for 40 years, do you have any...
Almost 40, not quite, but getting there.
Do you have any regrets?
Well, my regrets is I didn't invent a lot of this stuff a lot earlier. I already mentioned that, you know?
Yeah.
So that would be one of them. You know, literally every time I do something new, I'm like, oh my God, why did it take me so long to do this little stupid thing you know? So I would say that, but the only way to solve that is to just keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
I can relate to that. Like one of the things that I absolutely love doing is swimming. And I wish I'd learnt to swim sooner. Obviously it's completely terrifying. The first time I was in the pool in rehab, thought I was going to drown. And I was physically exhausted. But now I can go swimming independently, and I swam across a big lake a couple of summers ago. And yeah, it's such a wonderful freedom for me. And again, like I think the first time you do something is always the hardest, especially after a spinal cord injury. But the next time you do it is a little bit easier, and the next time you do it is a little bit easier. And that is analogous to many, many things. But I think, yeah, just try stuff. If you want to do stuff, try it, because you'll probably regret you didn't do it sooner.
Right, I absolutely agree. I think that's a great point. And, you know, swimming, you know, I wish I swam more, you know, because that is super helpful for you. And like all of these things, that particularly things that you can do out of your chair. And that doesn't mean being an exoskeleton, you know. There's a lot of ways to get out of your chair, get on the floor and do exercises, you know, and stretch. You know, and if you can, learn to do a floor to chair transfer, because that is a huge thing. Because once you can do that, that opens up a lot of things, because then you're not afraid of falling out of your chair, because you're like, I'll just get right back in, you know? So that all of those things, you know, again, mobility is the key to unlocking so many things in life. And as an able-bodied walking person, it's a really effective way to get around. There's no question about it. Like walking is pretty damn amazing, you know? But if you're not doing that, we got to replace it, you know? And a wheelchair also can be pretty amazing. And the thing is, what I also tell people is, what is the first thing an able-bodied person does when they go somewhere? What do they look for?
A seat.
Yeah, exactly. They look for a seat. So
yeah,
there's that, you know, most people want to sit down.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so if we recognize that, most people who are walking really don't access all the cool stuff that they could actually do walking anyway, you know?
Absolutely.
So again, this is not meeting your potential. It's just with a wheelchair, because the world is not designed for us, we got to work a lot harder.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get the world designed a little bit better for us, a little bit at a time. But the thing that makes the most difference is coming from us.
Yeah.
Because that's immediate. Society will hopefully change. It's not going to happen overnight. So in the meantime, get good at your chair.
Erik, thanks so much, man. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. Thank you so much for the innovations that you're making. I'm sure you're making the world a brighter place for a lot of people. And thanks for your time coming on the podcast. If people want to check you out, where can they find you?
So Instagram, wheelchair boarding. And then, for looking up at the wheelchair stuff, opensourcewheelchair.org will send you to the website.
Yeah.
To that area with the wheelchairs. I also have, so that's the easiest way to do it. And then I'm on Facebook and so forth. But yeah, no, I appreciate, talking to you. I appreciate the opportunity, and, hopefully, we can get people started, with disabilities in, taking back control, because we need it, or actually taking control for the first time. We've never had it. So let's just get it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Erik. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Great talking to you.
See ya.
All right, bye-bye.